always rejected is this idea of relentless working, this kind of hustle culture where, the best way to be successful is just to work 24/7 and ignore everything, drop everything, always prioritize work. And I strongly reject that. I don't think that it's the right approach. I think that, again, people start businesses or join a business for many different reasons. And so success looks very different to everyone. And it's a mistake if you're subscribing to someone else's measure of success and not really focusing on what you want. And I think that's where a lot of stress and misalignment happens in business. So, and that's one of the reasons why I was very firm on having that 4-day working week and only working 30 hours a week. If we could work less, maybe that'll be in the future.
10 years in business isn't luck, it's leadership. Laura Prael, founder of LEP Digital, joins me to unpack the habits that helped her grow a resilient team, reject hustle culture, and lead with clarity. If you want to grow your business without burning out, then this episode's for you. Hey Laura, welcome back to the Cultural Leadership Podcast. How are you?
Good. Great to be back, Brendan. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's awesome to have you now. There's not too many guests I've actually been able to say welcome back because for some reason, I don't recycle too often, not because the guests aren't fantastic. It's just that I just keep it fresh, I suppose. But it's great to have you back. We are focusing today on a bit of your journey. You are now in business for 10 or a bit over 10 years. You had your 10-year celebration not that long ago. Looked like a pretty good night from some of the photos I saw.
Yeah, it was really good. Brought together a small group of people we've known for the last couple of years and who have been friends at Crown Plaza at Terrigal. It was a pink theme, kind of like our logo. Done. So everyone was invited to wear a touch of pink or a wink of pink, we called it. So that made for some good content.
Well, it was photos look fantastic. Official congratulations on your 10-year anniversary.
Thank you.
Hey, Laura, let's dive in now. 10 years. So I'm going to start with a really open, wide question, which you can take whichever way that you like, is 10 years of business. Like, what has been the most satisfying thing for you in getting to this milestone?
Gosh, you're not letting me off easy with these questions. A hard one straight out of the gate.
I never will. You know me.
Look, I think we're pretty similar in that you and I both know the value of people and how important people are to business. So not only the people that you're working with, but the people you're working for, your clients or your customers. So I think one of the joys of running this business for the last 10 years is the people that I've gotten to work with and still get to work with. It's long-standing team members that I've had, some long-standing clients, people like yourself. And I think that that's the real trick in business, is to find your people and treat them well. Keep them close, because it is difficult to find your people. And I've learned over my time how to attract the right type of people that I work well with and who are going to challenge me, that we're going to get good results for, both in my team but on client side as well.
It's such a journey, the people side, isn't it? Business in general, but then your business, you've employed various people and built up a solid little team. So what is it about yourself? And I do want to focus quite a bit on yourself, because it's such that, owning your business is such a personal development journey, isn't it? So what is it about yourself that maybe you've looked at things differently around people and the right people for LEP Digital from, day dot when it was you and, maybe around your card table and with your computer and doing all that sort of stuff. And then you've grown this successful team. You've got a great name in the industry.
I think there's a few things I look at. So obviously in marketing, we're always like, create a buyer persona. Sometimes we do that with our team members as well. If you could paint the perfect team member or the perfect client, what would they look like? And often you look at traits, whether it's hard skills, soft skills, the demographics, where they're based. But I've had to hone that a little bit more because that always doesn't work out. What you think is going to work well on paper doesn't always work. So there's a few things that I look at that's helped me to be successful and to bring in the right people around me. The first thing is gauging energy match. So this maybe seems a bit woo-woo, but it's, when you go to a party or you go to a networking event, and there's certain people that you're drawn to, and there's certain people that you go, oh, it's, you just don't, the energies don't match. So there might be someone that is very high energy, and is really chatty, and, their gestures are up here and they're so excited. And they talk a lot, and maybe you're someone that gets exhausted by that. Maybe you can't kind of compete at that energy level. Or conversely, maybe it's someone that is really softly spoken and you can't get much out of them, and you really, you're trying to ask questions and the questions just get shut down. So it's kind of gauging that the right energy match. People that you can work well with, you can bounce off ideas that you feel energized by, has served me really well. And often that's just a gut instinct. How do you feel when you're around someone? And helping someone to feel comfortable, whether it's, your employees at work or whether it's a client or a new prospect that you're meeting with for the first time, is a real skill. And being able to change your energy to be able to match the other person, I think, is really important as well. So that's something that I look for. I also look at the stage of someone's journey. So journey is very cliche. It's overused a lot. But when you are, and this can be applied to a partnership, business partnership, it could be a contractor in your business, it could be employee or even a client, you've got to look at the stage in their journey that they're at. Are they early days? Are they kind of growth stage? Are they seeking transformation? Are they wanting to do something different? Or are they quite established in their journey, so to speak, whether that's their career or their business? And understanding where that is and what you can offer them is really important. So there's not that kind of mismatch of someone that you're looking for, but they may not be ready for what you're bringing into them. I don't know if that resonates much with you or with the listeners, but that's something that I found has been really helpful for me.
Yeah, well, again, the energy match and the stage of their journey, I guess. How do you, what comes to my mind is that if you look at, I'll come back to energy, but the stage of the journey, do you look at that in relation to them and their own personal development, but also in line with where the business is at and where the business needs to go? How does that figure into it?
Correct. Yeah. So it's a little bit of both, because every employee is joining your business for a different reason. And people are motivated by different things. And I've noticed that in my business, there's several types of people that are attracted to a business in digital marketing. So sometimes it's younger people coming through, or not even younger people, but people that are newer to digital marketing. Maybe they've recently studied or done some additional training, and they're looking to get a foot in the door or change career paths to go down that digital marketing space. Sometimes it's people that are established in their career, but maybe they want a bit more work-life balance. So LEP Digital famously has a 4-day working week. So we work Mondays to Thursdays. We all have Fridays off, and we do 30 hours. And that's quite attractive to people, particularly women, because women often balance other things in their life, whether it's caring duties or parenting duties. Men do it as well, but women do quite a bit. And that can be attractive to them as well. But what they want in their career is very different to maybe someone who has just finished studying. So figuring out, what the role is, where our business is up to. Early days in LEP, I hired a lot of younger people that were newer. There was a few reasons for that. One is that I couldn't always afford, the really experienced people, because it was a young business and we only had a few clients. I was young as well, so I was a little bit, less experienced myself in how to lead an experienced team. So the demographic of my team has shifted quite a lot over the 10 years. And now that we are quite established and we've got bigger clients, we've got a real mix, which is really lovely. So we've got some people that are more newer to their careers and junior, right through to mid, and then established people that have even more experience than me, which I'm really proud of, who can really balance out our team and make it strong.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? I've seen, I've sat on the sidelines and seen this journey, seen sort of Laura, and I think we've sat on the sidelines of each other's journey. We've helped each other out and done various things for each other along the way, which has been fantastic. And I know I appreciate that, and I know you do for me. We're sort of just, there's this progression in both of us. Apart from me getting a few more grey hairs, you seem to be doing really well in that department, Laura.
I've just got a good hairdresser.
I definitely need a better one because my hairdresser grabs, it's my right hand, I grab the thing and I go over the bin and I start doing this. Anyway, that's a whole other story, probably a whole other podcast, some sort of hairdressing podcast we should do. Look, I love what you're saying there. There's, again, there's so much to unpack, but I want to try and come back to you again. Like, what is, looking at yourself, what have you seen change in yourself from that, early stages to the sort of business owner you are today?
It is interesting. You make a really good point because, when you start a business, particularly when you're younger. So I was 29 when I started the business, and even though I'd done quite a bit of my career before that, it is fairly young to start a business. And I have grown and matured with the business. So my whole 30s has been dedicated to this business. And I think every year in your 30s, everyone grows. They learn more about themselves, who they are. And I didn't know much about myself as a leader when I started the business. I'd never managed anyone before, in truth. I'd always worked as a subject matter expert. I was really good at honing my skills as a writer and a marketer. But I didn't know how to lead a team. So I was really making it up and doing as much training as I could. And that's how we met when I reached out to you to get some support. And I found it interesting how my DISC profile has changed. And you know about this. So obviously you run DISC profile training. It's something that you ran for my team early on when we were only a few years old. And my result in my DISC profile was, I believe it was SI from memory.
Pretty sure that's what it was.
Steadiness and influence. So, and you really resonated with that S part of me. You were like, yep, that's spot on. I can see that in you because I'm someone that is very collaborative. I like working with others. I don't like being dominant. I don't necessarily like telling people what to do. I like to support others to come to their conclusion and help them to make decisions. However, as the company grew and I had different types of people join the company from all different points of the DISC quadrant, so to speak.
Diversification.
Diversification of the business. That style I felt was challenging for some team members because they go, just tell us what you want us to do. There was this sense that they wanted me to be more direct. They wanted me to be more dominant. They wanted me to take the lead, to step up. And I could understand that because that's what you do want that from a leader. You really want clarity. You want someone that's holding the team accountable, who's going to set the rules, so to speak. And so I had to really adapt, and it was quite challenging because didn't feel natural to me to be dominant. But I did have to change. I felt myself a little bit to be the leader that my team needed. So much so that about 4 years after I did that original DISC profile, we met up again. We did training for the team, and my profile had changed quite dramatically. I think it was I, but closer to the D quadrant. And I think you were like, whoa, what's happened? You've navigated almost halfway around the quadrant, which, it's probably not.
What have you done with the old Laura? For the listeners and viewers, it's a workplace profile. So you do have that workplace lens on. Yes,
the workplace lens on. So, I haven't done my DISC profile in recent years, so I don't know whether I've returned or not, but certainly I have learned to be more dominant when I need to. I would still say that it's not my natural style, but I've learned to be comfortable in stepping into it when I need it. When I sense that the team needs direction or leadership, or something's gone wrong, I have increasingly felt more confident to stand up and say, right, these are the problems, this is what we've got to fix. And call out certain behaviours or things that I've noticed in the team that I don't think are appropriate and that I don't like. And I felt more comfortable with that. So I do feel like I've grown a lot and I've changed a lot. And interestingly, with that experience has come a lot more calm. So I feel like I was calm before, but maybe I was more calm on the outside, not on the inside, whereas now I'm calm on the outside and calm on the inside. So I feel a lot more confident in who I am, the type of business that I'm running and the type of leader that I am.
I think you've said the critical word twice, which is confident. Become more confident or have more confidence. That's the thing where it allows us to move around. And I mean, let me not put words in your mouth, but you mentioned it a couple of times. Like, is that how you felt over time? There's that confidence level. Maybe you've experienced things in the business that first time around was like, I'm just winging it, so to speak, which we all are to some extent. And then what we've lived this, or we've lived a variation of this.
Yeah, I think confidence comes from knowing who you are. And I think that that's a key thing that people forget. People think, oh, you're either born with confidence or I need to, do all of these things to become confident. But for me, I think it's just being comfortable with who you are, knowing who you are and just trusting who you are. And for me, that's coming back to what are my natural strengths? What am I good at? Embracing my story, embracing the fact that, I don't have a marketing degree. I have an arts degree, and that was a bit of early on, I thought, I feel a bit like an imposter here being an agency director who doesn't necessarily have a bachelor of business. But I've embraced the fact
that... Isn't an arts degree the degree you do when you're not sure what degree you want to do?
Exactly. And I didn't know what I wanted to.
You've done all right with it. You've done all right with it.
I've done all right. Look, things have worked out pretty well. But yeah, I wanted to be an actor when I was younger, and there was no two ways about it, and I begrudgingly did my degree, and the arts was very much, I'm just going to do this arts degree and then I'm going to go to NIDA and I'm going to be on stage, and that was it. Obviously, our lives take different interesting paths, and I'm really happy that I went down the marketing path. But early experiences in life can really shape how confident you feel, and it can show up in imposter syndrome if you feel like maybe you didn't go down the right path or the path that everyone else goes down. And for me, I think early on I was a bit like, I haven't done a degree in business. I haven't written a business plan. I don't know how to read a P&L statement. I didn't have those practical skills. I just had to learn it and wing it, if you like. But I think that confidence has born from embracing who I am and my background and story, is that I see that as a strength. I think it's something unique. A lot of agency directors don't have that background that I do. Knowing who I am and liking who I am as well is a big confidence boost. And also reframing any failure as opportunity. So that's been a big thing for me, is I think that the most successful leaders are resilient leaders, and they learn how to quickly shake off challenges or discomfort or failures that they may have and turn it into something that's an opportunity or something more powerful for them to move on with.
Yeah, some great points again. What do you, let's just deviate to performance, because we started speaking a little bit about that before we hit the record button. What have you learnt over this last 10 years from start to now, and continuing to learn, but about what you need to have in place, what you need to do, how your style works for you and works for your team around performance? Because ultimately we're all in business to perform, aren't we?
Absolutely. I have really focused on trying to figure out what motivates each person, and the DISC tool has been really beneficial from that. But I also ask my team, what motivates you? and what do you need to be successful? What do you enjoy doing? So I'm really interested in learning about my team members beyond the surface level, and not to become best friends with them all, but to know them on a level that is beyond necessarily just I'm your boss, to understand what they do on the weekend, to understand who's in their family, what do they do in their spare time, what makes them tick. And I think that is linked to performance, because if I know what they care about and what intrinsically motivates them, I can give them the tools or the tasks or the feedback to be able to be successful and to ultimately perform. And it is different for everyone. So yes, we all come to work and we expect to get paid, and, salary is a big motivator. But for some people, it's, they want to work on really interesting projects. They want to challenge themselves. They want career growth. Maybe they want to do things with social impact. So it's trying to figure out what those things are. And ultimately that really helps them to perform. And I don't agree in hard discipline unless I absolutely have to. I'd prefer a softer approach, which is really part of who I am as a leader. To if something goes wrong, I try not to expose it in a group setting unless I absolutely have to, unless it's really affecting everyone. And so I'll take them away from the group and I'll say, look, I understand this went wrong. I'm not upset about it, but I'd love for you to talk to me about, what happened from your perspective, and how can I support you, to do that better next time. So, and I think that has won a lot of trust with my team, because they know that they can make mistakes and I'm not going to fire them or come down really hard. I'm not going to embarrass them. But they also don't, they don't want to do it again, because it's an uncomfortable thing, obviously, if something goes wrong. And that's led to a really high performing team, because people take accountability. They know they can trust me and come to me if something goes wrong. And they care. They do care about, at the end of the day, getting a good result for the team. And I'm all about helping the team, not performing as an individual. I know that's something we've spoken about a lot early on. You don't want a team of individuals. You want a team who are supporting each other to help the company succeed.
Yeah, it certainly makes, it defines a team, doesn't it, as opposed to a working group. So, how is, again, it might seem like a random question in the context of where we're at currently, but myth in business, right? Can you think of something that, with where you're at, 10 years ago and where you're at now, what has been that maybe that one or two myths that you were sort of given that you got to do this, you got to do this, and actually, given your real life experience nowadays, it's probably not that accurate.
Two things come to mind. Early on, it was all about business plan. I think adaptability is far important than any plan. And early on, a lot of people were like, this is my 5-year plan, this is how I'm going to grow. And people like this idea of projecting far into the future. They love being able to have their goals planned out really far in advance. And look, there's absolutely power in doing that and knowing where you want to go and having that vision and foresight of where you want to go. But things don't go to plan. So as long as you write that plan, but you're willing to rip it up and start again, and adapt and pivot, which was everyone's buzzword, during those infamous C years. That's the most important thing. And so I've really rejected this idea of long-term planning, and I'm more focused on short-term planning. What do we want to achieve in the next 6 months? What do we want to achieve in the next year? What are our goals? And what are the small things that are going to get us there? Because the truth is, a lot in life is luck, and a lot is external things, external forces that happen to us, and we need to be able to take what happens and use it to our advantage, or leverage from there. So that was the first myth. The second one is this idea that I've always rejected, is this idea of relentless working. this kind of hustle culture where, the best way to be successful is just to work 24/7 and, ignore everything, drop everything, always prioritize work. And I strongly reject that. I don't think that it's the right approach. I think that, again, people start businesses or join a business for many different reasons. And so success looks very different to everyone. And it's a mistake if you're subscribing to someone else's measure of success and not really focusing on what you want. And I think that's where a lot of stress and misalignment happens in business. So, and that's one of the reasons why I was very firm on having that 4-day working week and only working 30 hours a week. If we could work less, maybe that'll be in the future. Because it's important to have balance in your life. It's important, especially in creative industries like we work in, you need to have stuff that you're doing outside of office work. You need to have hobbies. You need to spend time in your community. You need to spend time with your family, because that's when all those ideas and ideas and creativity comes when the mind's relaxed. It doesn't come where you're stressed and you're chained to the desk and you're under deadlines and pressures. It happens when your mind and body's relaxed. So that's been a real focus for me, and it's proven to be very effective for me and in my business.
I guess there's always been something I've liked about you, and there's those two things are probably why. Business plans, there's a lot more than that. But yeah, business plan, I'm 100% aligned with where you're at. And interestingly, again, I was saying pre-recording that the things I've found challenging in the last 12, 18 months is around my digital product journey, and I've had to really start to think about my struggling avatar versus my sort of future-based hero. And I've settled on hands-on hustler as that struggling avatar and gone to high-impact leader as the future. So I so resonate with the hands-on hustler. I guess let's turn this around a little bit though, because so many people out there will be thinking like, 4 days a week, that's awesome. When does it not maybe serve you well, or maybe serve your team well, or maybe even your clients well?
It's tricky sometimes, because clients who don't work 4 days, which are all of our clients, sometimes at the start they're unsure how that could work. So they think, what if we've got something urgent? And I always say to them, look, you've got my mobile number, you've got my email address. If something's urgent, but we need to define what urgent is, because a lot of the time people go, it's urgent. I need to, change the color on something that's, it's not actually urgent. Urgent could be if the website goes down, or, a mistake has gone out in the digital space. It needs urgent correction. And in those sort of instances, myself and my team are always on hand. Everyone in my team is, even though I say, turn your emails off your mobile, make sure you rest. The reality is these are professionals. So these are people that care about their job. They are managing client accounts, and they are available if there is a genuine emergency. And look, it's not ideal when that happens. It doesn't happen very often, and that can cause stress. But the way that we manage it is, if an employee has had to step in and correct something or help a client on their day off, maybe on a Friday, they will get time in lieu. So they will be able to take another day so that they can, recoup that time that they would have otherwise had for rest. So that has been difficult. Sometimes we've had requests for community management of social media, especially large social media accounts. So these are national clients. And community management is when you post something on a client's social media channel, but then you respond to any comments or direct messages. And that's really challenging, because it's essentially a 24/7 role. So I'm very upfront with clients, and I say we don't do that unless it's extenuating circumstances, because that is very difficult for an agency to manage. It is something that is really best served by the client, best done by the client's team. And sometimes that's just a difficult conversation, and being upfront with the client and saying, we can't do it all. But other than that, it's worked pretty damn well, I would say.
I guess one of the things that, I really like it as well. I think the thing that comes out, and I know, again, through conversation with you, and that there can be an impact on people because you're working 4 days a week, which sounds great, but even as cost of living goes up, and again, you alluded to the type of people that those roles seem to resonate with, but that can be challenging, can't it? Like, do you find that it maybe reduces your available talent to come into LEP?
Well, that's interesting because early on in the first couple of years of the business, we hired 4 days and we paid 4 days. But for quite some time, we've paid an annual 5-day salary, but they only work 4 days. So they actually have no impact on
That's a bit more enticing.
That's right. They have it's no impact on their take-home salary. They get a full-time salary as if they're working 5 days, but they only are required to work those 30 days. 30 hours. Wouldn't it be good if we all just worked 30 days a year? That would be fun.
Anything's possible. It's just about planning for it. Might need a little bit more of a longer-term plan for that one, Laura.
Yes. So, yes, that's definitely one of the benefits. It's something I had to change because obviously, cost of living is expensive, especially if you've got a family and you're supporting people, you're paying a mortgage. So that's really important to factor in.
In this journey, this business journey, what's the greatest challenge that comes to mind that you've had? And it can be anything. It can be people, financial, location. I know you had a bit of a hairy moment there for a period of time. So, open it up. Let's get under the hood.
I think, again, given my style of leadership, I'm far more concerned about people challenges than I am about task challenges or financial challenges. So for me, it's more about the emotional stresses of, a staff member who is maybe ill or has a family member that's ill and maybe therefore becomes unpredictable with their work schedule when they can come to work. I did have a stage during COVID where quite a few people left in the same year, like within a period of 6 months. So I pretty much lost all of my team. And that was probably my biggest challenge in business because I thought, oh my gosh, like I've lost so many people in a quick period of time. Is it me? It was a bit of an existential, am I not a good leader? Am I doing the wrong thing? Is there something wrong with the business? But I think having reflected on that, it wasn't like as if it was a mass walkout. It just they were long-standing team members. They were leaving for different reasons, different stages in life. Again, they were younger. So, what they wanted out of the business is very different to perhaps the team that I've got in place now. So that was probably one of my biggest challenges. And trying to rebuild from that, trying to rebuild a team and figure out who you are as a leader, what you need to put in place. That was really difficult for me. I think that really shook things up. But I'm not someone that dwells on problems or challenges or things that have happened to me. I like to see everything in a positive light. I like to see the silver lining.
That's the over optimistic eye coming out.
Yeah, I think so. I think, the most terrible thing could happen to me and I'd go, oh, well, that's okay because of XYZ. I always try to rationalize into my mind that there's something good that's come out of it, or it's redirected me to something else. It's taught me something. And even though it was really upsetting personally and for the business to lose some key people so quickly, I ended up hiring people that are incredible and who have stayed with me since and have really helped grow the business. So it has worked out really, really well. And I wouldn't have been able to meet these people had that not happened. So,
Always opportunity in anything, isn't there? But you use the word learn a couple of times. So what were your sort of significant learnings from that challenge?
I think it was how to rebuild from setbacks and do it quickly. So in those times, it worked really hard because, obviously if a team member leaves and you're a small business, you absorb their work immediately because it takes a long time to hire someone. There's, even if the staff member gives you 4 weeks notice, it might take 3 months to find someone. So in that time, I took on a lot of work myself. Luckily, because my background is in marketing, I physically can do a lot of the work myself. And I think it was an interesting test for how much I can take and not break, and how much I cared about the business to keep it alive. I was working 7 days. I was working really long hours. It's not something I wanted to do or I'd recommend doing, but, you do what you have to do when you're an owner. And I was happy to do that for the business. So that taught me a lot about my resilience and how capable I am of rebuilding from setbacks. It taught me about the hiring process. It gave me a little bit of time to go, who do I really need this time? This is an opportunity. It's a fresh slate. Do I want to change the hiring process? Do I want to add in more steps? Do I need to get support with the hiring process from, a HR professional? So, it gave me time to reflect on things. I started journaling, which people had told me about before, and I was a bit like, oh, I write all day. Like, I don't want to go home and write at night. But I found journaling really therapeutic because I could just get at all my feelings, and I don't need to tell anyone about it. I don't need to vent to my partner or vent to a friend. I can just get it all out on paper, and then I can look back at it if needed and, see what state of mind I was in, to see how far I've grown. And that's been really, really helpful.
Well, I think with Pete, I mean, from memory, he was S, quite heavily inclined to the S side. So he'll be there to support you anyway, even if you needed a shoulder to cry on.
Yeah, he's been a great support and continues to be a great support over the years. He's it's in any small business owner's journey, it's really important to have someone like that you can talk to and rely on. Just to get things out, I had a really bad day or I had a really bad week, and just helps put things into perspective and is a sounding board for you, because in those times you might have really heightened emotions and you may not be logically thinking how to get things through. And having someone like him who tends to be quite logical and practical, that really helped me to figure out what are the next steps, what are the actions I can take to be able to figure out this problem.
How easy or hard has that been with, and this is sort of why I joke into the question, but, Pete's been, by his side, you guys have been by each other's side for a long time. So I think early on he was sort of in and out of the business supporting, but now he's full-time in the business so how is, that can be tough. I mean, 24/7 relationships are hard, and then you're working together. Like, what's been the good and the maybe not so shiny side of that?
I think if you work with someone in your family or a sibling, you need to have good boundaries in place so that it doesn't bleed into your life, because you've got a relationship with someone as a colleague, but then you've got a relationship with that person as a partner or a sibling or whatever it may be. So we're pretty good at knowing when to finish talking about work. And I try not to talk to him too much about work outside of work, because I don't think it's fair to the other team members. So I've tried to keep almost keep a professional distance in that sense. So, I'll never come home and be like, oh, this team member, like, I can't believe they said X, Y, Z, because I think, no, it's not fair. I wouldn't say that to another team member. So I really try to limit how much he knows, even to the point where some of the other team members know more than him. He goes, oh, you didn't tell me that. I think, oh, sorry.
You've taken it to the extreme.
Taken it too far, maybe.
Sounds like you've got fantastic boundaries, though.
Absolutely. So if we're sitting down to dinner, we might just discuss our day, because he works from the office some days and then works from home some days, so we're not actually sitting next to each other every day of the week, which I think is helpful. And we might sit down at dinner, and maybe for the first 10 minutes we might share highlights or anything that happened during the day and maybe give each other feedback. But then after that, it's no work chat. It's kind of, that's it until the next day. So I think that's been really helpful. And in the weekend, we just try not to bring up work at all or do any work if possible.
stay away from it completely. You mentioned the word feedback as well, and my ears always spark up around those sort of things. So what's a piece of feedback you've got over time from, Pete or a team member or whatever, that's really, you didn't see coming, but it's really helped you, and it's been memorable and really helped you in your sort of leadership and business ownership trajectory?
There's been a couple of pieces of feedback over the years that's really nice. And I think as a leader, you don't get feedback very often because, one, you don't really invite feedback. And two, people probably don't feel like they should be giving you feedback. So it doesn't happen that often. But it was really nice. We've got a new staff member who's been with us for 3 or 4 months, and we do walking one-to-ones. I do that with all of my team members once a month. And anyway, at the end of the one-to-one, I just said, look, I just wanted to say you're doing a great job. The team are really happy with you. You're helping me a lot. You're picking things up well. Thank you for, really giving it your all. And he said, and thank you for being a good leader. You've done such a good job at bringing everyone together. I really appreciate the one-to-ones. You really take the time to get to know us. And you also, I like that you also dig in when the team needs support. You roll your sleeves up and you get in, you do whatever that's needed. And I was a bit taken aback because I wasn't expecting it. Normally at the end of it, they just go thanks and then we go back to work. So that was really touching for me. I think it's nice to hear what people think about things and know that it matters, and that I'm giving them what they need to be successful. I've also had a key piece of feedback over the years that I help others to feel calm because I'm calm. And I've had this in other areas of my life as well, like even at the hairdresser. I know we joked about the hairdresser earlier, but I went to the hairdresser recently and she was just doing a few foils of my fringe, and the woman next to me was getting her whole hair bleached from another hairdresser, and mine took twice as long. And the other hairdresser said, what's going on? Why have you taken so long to do this woman's fringe? She said, oh, well, Laura's just such a relaxed person and made me feel relaxed. And so I was just enjoying it and taking my time. And, I've had that from my team as well, that they'd say, oh, thank you for talking me off the ledge. I was really stressed about XYZ, but you've really helped me to calm and see it from another perspective, and that's really lovely to hear.
And it's specific too. It's one of the major mistakes people make with feedback and not making it specific and stuff like that. So there's stuff that you can do with it, i.e. that's really constructive, positive stuff that you can continue to do something with, as opposed to someone saying, I think you're a really good leader. And say, oh, thanks for that. Then you go away and you think, what do they mean by that?
Yeah.
It's also, again, the thing that sparks to me, I'm not sure if you prompted a little bit more or not, but if not, it's really aware of the person giving you feedback to do that. That's a real skill, because it's not a skill that you find often.
And my team are great at doing that as well. I think we're a very open team. I've encouraged feedback. I've encouraged people to talk to one another and give that feedback. So I think it's also a testament to the great people that I have on my team, their expertise, their maturity, and how comfortable they feel at work as well.
I've told this story several times on the podcast, I think, so sorry for the community who's heard it before. The greatest bit of feedback I got was the simplest bit of feedback I got. It was many, many years ago from a person who was in my team when I was in corporate, and she said to me that, Brendan, you're so brash and harsh on email. You're actually a nicer person than that. And do you know what it came down to? Was the very first line I wrote in an email was just Laura, Cheryl, Brendan. I didn't even put a hi, a hello, a hey, or it was just, that's how I learned to do email. Every email I write to this day, I start with hey, and I always remember Cheryl because she's the one that told me that. It was like so simple, but her to have, again, she was in my team and I was a sort of senior manager in the organization, but the memories I have of her is just fantastic because she had the courage just to do that. It was such a simple thing, but when you've got let's face it, a power imbalance in organizations like that, it just took such guts and courage. But it doesn't have to be big, is my point. It can be something so simple, but back to that word impact, that's just impacted me every single day And how many times do we write emails every day? too bloody much. So that, I guess that was a constructive an improvement opportunity for me. Has there been something like that for you where, something along those sort of lines that's come across your path and like that's really helped me, and I think of it often?
I have been told to give specific feedback. So in my one-to-ones, I'd be more about, how can I help, or what's this happening, or that's something, or the team. And I'd be more broad about, I'm really enjoying how the team's working together. And I've had a few staff members over the years and go, well, do you have any feedback for me? What do you think about my work? And that's, at the start, was a bit like, well, I hadn't really thought about that. And it's something I still need to practically think about, because I see my team every day. We've worked together a long time. They all know that I think that they're great and they're wonderful people, and I try to give them as much praise as often. But I have to remind myself, think of that specific feedback, because people appreciate it. People appreciate it. To hear good feedback about themselves, and being specific is really important as well. So that's something that I've still got to remind myself to do. So that probably prompted me to go, okay, people want that specific feedback. And it goes back to that, I think that dominance thing of being direct, being more direct, not beating around the bush or assuming people know things. Is just be direct with people and they really respond well to it. So that's helped me a lot. I think early on as well, I had trouble with hard conversations, and I got given the feedback of, just tell us, just don't beat around the bush. Easier said than done. But that's really stuck with me.
I do love the feedback loop, sort of the feedback on how you give feedback. That's awesome. That's fantastic. And it is, I mean, again, what we've got to realize is that, and look, I'm not sitting here and perfect at it, and certainly haven't been perfect over the years. I generally learn more from my mistakes, but it is a real skill in learning to give feedback in a way that, and also, again, this is where back to what we started earlier on the podcast, and you getting to know yourself more, your journey of leadership and business ownership, how that's evolved. Like, if you don't know yourself well, it's very difficult to then start to learn about other people and how they may like to receive feedback. And this is where your ability to, we go back to DISC, because that was when we did that episode 2 many, many years ago, that your ability to understand that, but then to adapt to that in the other person's seat is a key thing, because that's where, you talked about energy, and those people, like, that's where you start to match each other's energy. Energy doesn't need to be sort of, beating each other and like, oh, this is fantastic, and racing in the room, but it's just you're leveling out. So all of those things are contextual, which probably AI is going to be very difficult to replace that.
Yes.
Anyway, I do want to. I threw in the AI thing because I'm not saying we need to go down that path, but it's more important for me. What do you see as the challenges in the horizon for a business like yours, given the AI landscape?
I'm glad you brought this up. I want to preface this by saying that I'm a fan of AI, and I think it's great. Look, in digital marketing, it's been around for many years, even though it's gotten a lot of fanfare over the last 18 months. The reality is...
It's sort of been hidden in the background through our feeds and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. It's not been accessible to us so much.
Absolutely. In tools that we use, like design and video tools and writing tools, it's been embedded for years and years and years and years. So we are really no strangers to AI. But particularly in my industry, there's two main things that I dislike about it and that are big challenges. The first is that when businesses who are not necessarily skilled or experienced in digital marketing use AI to produce content, and they don't do it well, or they don't tweak it and they personalize it, it can cause distrust from the audience. So early days with AI, and I'm thinking like the usual offenders, ChatGPT, it was hard to spot a ChatGPT post on social media. It was kind of like, oh, okay, this person hasn't posted for a while. Oh, they're quite articulate. Great. Now you can tell when something's written by AI very easily. So people are more savvy to it, and it breeds distrust from the audience. You immediately become disengaged if you think the person posting it hasn't written it, doesn't have their, I think, genuine, stamp on it. So that can be a problem for marketers and in marketing, because we don't want our audience to go away from us. It's already hard to stand out in marketing anyway and have our messages cut through, because we're just seeing millions of messages a day. So that's a big problem. So much so that audiences now are going back to old school ways of communication. They're wanting to pick up the phone, talk to a salesperson, go to a shop, talk to someone in person, because they're not trusting what they're seeing online. So I think that's a big challenge. The second challenge that is talked about less often is homogenization of content. Because everyone's using AI, it's producing really bland, uniform content that is getting replicated a million times. And I don't know about you, Brendan, but I would rather be hated than being thought of as boring or unremarkable or forgettable.
Well, usually hated there's a lot more emotion to that, and that it probably means you're doing something, you're making change, because you can't be liked by everyone.
That's right. If I left this earth today and someone was reading out my eulogy, I would not want them to say, oh, she's pretty average, did all the usual things. There's nothing worse than being boring in marketing. And unfortunately, AI produces it's average stuff. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just, it's average unless you know really what to do with it, how to prompt it, how to create that spark. So I think they're the two biggest challenges for marketers now with AI.
My weird sense of humor has just taken me to I think we just got to title this episode Laura Average Prael.
You wouldn't dare. I wouldn't share it.
No, I wouldn't, but maybe one of my team will. No, how could I resist? It's really interesting. Like I won't say I've gone all in compared to some other people I know, but I love it as well. I think from from a business owner like me, where I'm not trying to grow a team locally. Like I said, my team's sort of remote. That works really well for me, and less risk and all that sort of stuff. But I've been able to get AI through some help of some communities I'm involved in to speak in my tongue, because I've got like you've got so much content out there. It can pick up your style. I've got an AI avatar which is like 90 pages, and there's all some structure around it. But I've basically talked into like a product like this or Zoom or whatever, and it's pulled I've pulled out the transcript, so it's learnt my story, it's learnt my ups and downs and all this sort of stuff. And that's been, again, I'm not saying it's far from perfect, but it's like that has been the single biggest thing that has changed the game for me and a business like mine in the content creation space. It doesn't give me vanilla. Like, it gives me stuff that, and this is where where I start to think is that, like, what I don't know from an individual perspective, like I can produce content, but the strategy and the thinking and that level which you have and your team have and all that, like, that to me is where the power sits. Because AI you can say, oh, give me a strategy around but like, honestly, that's the stuff that I find very difficult. So I think this is where to me, in your space, like, that's where the value really sits moving forward. I mean, we can get people producing content and stuff, but anyway, I mean, what's your thought on that? You guys are experts in your field. You've sort of pointed me in the right direction at different times, and it's really at that sort of higher level of thinking that makes the big difference.
Absolutely. You've got to have the idea in the first place. You can't really outsource strategy or ideas. You can ask it to, but again, it's just going to be probably an idea that everyone's thought of. It's not going to be unique or fresh or different. And that's something that I think AI struggles with at the moment. Not to say it won't change, it'll evolve and get better, but it struggles with creativity and emotion. And the best way to judge if your content is good or it really is original is how much engagement it gets. So, if you're someone that social media is a really important part of your marketing, you can test it by putting up something that you've written yourself, or something you've designed yourself, or a photo or whatever, next to something AI has written and designed, and just see how the audience responds. That I do still see that there is a spot for creators. I don't think that that is going to be eliminated, because you still need to put your stamp on it. There's still going to be a human element of analysis and checking. I would say that you, Brendan, are a super user of AI. Most people are not at the level that you are at. They're doing very basic prompts. But also, because they don't know what they don't know, they don't have the expertise or experience, they might think something AI produces is great until their audience, or their customers tell them otherwise. So, for example, I was talking to someone who is a small business owner. It's a retail-based shop. I won't sort of go into any more because I don't want to embarrass them. But they came up to me the other day and they said, have you heard of AI? I said, yeah. What about it? What part of AI? And they said, did you know that you could produce your own videos now and you can do everything with AI? And I said, okay. And they said, I've got to show you something. They got their phone out and they showed me this video that they created for their local business. And this is a business based in New South Wales. That's a bricks and mortar business. And it was an image of, first of all, a New York city skyline at night with cars buzzing by, very busy city. And a woman popped up who was kind of like a robotic looking woman who had an American accent and was like, hi, did you know, blah, 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 and then shrunk down. He said, it's so good. It's real. It's like we filmed it. And I was like...
And you're going to tell me they're a business in Narrabri or something like that as well.
Pretty much. And I just was like, do I break this person's heart by telling them all the problems? Or do I just say, go for it? Just, But they were so proud of it, and they were so proud of what they'd been able to achieve with it. So I think that is the issue, is that people are getting very excited about the new technology. And it is bloody exciting. The fact that you can create videos and you can have avatars and you can do all of this stuff. But again, that goes back to the strategy. Who are you trying to appeal to? Why? What is the actual message? What do you want people to feel? And that is an example where people will immediately go, that's AI, and I don't care. And I don't live in New York.
It's sort of, and again, I don't want us to divert too much, but it's bringing it back to connection. You and your team you need to be numbers people around the work you do, but what I feel like I'm seeing more is the stuff that is, obviously we should have various types of content we're putting out there, but the things that I feel like are progressing better now, maybe because of the landscape, is what I would call connection style content. So it still may have the flavor of, you want your flavor of business coming through, but it's a story about something you've done and how you've related to that. Like stuff that, AI can support that, but if you don't tell it a story, it's not going to know that story. Do you know what I mean? It's going to know the how-to stuff or the what-to-do stuff, because that's bread and butter. Do you feel that? Do you see numbers in that? Do you see there's a rise in the real connection requirement around content? Because that does link back to leadership. That's the thing that is key, connection for people. And that's what you're great at.
Absolutely. And you touched on there the key word there is storytelling, because people remember stories because they're about people. Stories aren't really about objects or things. They're about someone moving from one spot to another. They're going on a journey. And that's what a story has to have. They're the key components of a story. How one person moved from one spot to another spot. And it's basic human connection is wanting to hear about other people's stories. And that is genuine. It's relatable. It's something that is memorable. The way that you can make your marketing more memorable is to create emotion behind it. So to either make someone laugh or make someone cry. And people will remember that. People don't remember things that are necessarily objects or statistics or, images. They remember pictures of people and smiling and laughter and emotions. And that's why that idea of storytelling is so important. We even though we are in digital marketing, and that's the term most people know, our agency was born from content marketing, and it's this idea of storytelling and building genuine connections with people. So even though we do advertising, we do all the things that a digital marketing company does, we try to take it from the perspective of what's in it for the viewer, what's in it for the audience, what are they going to feel out of it.
And there's your acting coming in.
Yeah. And I do believe that it is that background of art and acting and moving people that does make a difference in terms of the creative output that you've got.
It's really, isn't it always interesting how we relate things to what we've just been, researching or whatever. So I came across this video yesterday that sort of came in on an email, and it talked about sort of the power of conversation. I'm like, all right, I love that shit. So I, dived into it, and it gave a stat. I can't remember the number, but it was that there was a study done around blind dates and those that got a second date after a blind date. And the study proved in that it was those people that asked emotionally digging questions created an emotion in others that had a high possibility of getting a second date. So it is when you make people feel a certain way, good, bad, or ugly, but they're they're diving down a little bit deeper into whatever their thought bank and driving up those emotions. That's what makes a difference. So it just sort of reinforces what you're saying. If you tell a story, when you're speaking on stage, you're telling a story and stirring out some emotion. Again, that emotion can be positive or negative or whatever, but it's an emotion that's memorable. That's the key, right? AI doesn't do that.
Absolutely.
That I know of.
Absolutely. And businesses that get to talk to their customers or clients have an advantage because they can have those conversations and try to go a little bit deeper than that sort of surface level. I was very well known as a young person when we first turned 18 and we went out to clubs and so forth, is people would go, oh, Laura, she loves a D&M, loves it.
That's your S. That's your S.
And, my friends would be, on the dance floor, just wanted to have a good dance and whatever. And I'd be out on the balcony of it was at Iguana Joe's back in the day. And I'd be meeting people and I'd go straight into, what do you want to do with your career? What drives you? And I'd be interviewing them and having these deep conversations. And these poor men, most of them, they'd probably be like, oh, I just wanted to get someone's number, And I'm really interviewing about their life.
I was going to say, I've got a bunny boiler here. I've got a bunny boiler here. Get me out of here.
My friends would be, oh, no, Laura's out the back talking about politics again. Oh, no.
Oh, that's hilarious. I'm not sure I was looking for deep conversation at 18 years of age, but anyway, that's a different story. Laura, let's start to wrap this up. We've gone about an hour or so, but a couple of questions I would like to ask you as we finish up. So, you're starting. Think back to your starting. And you're mentoring, giving advice to somebody else who's thinking about this path. What advice would you give them about? It doesn't mean starting a content business or a digital marketing business. Starting a business.
We famously have a big sign in our office. It's illuminated in pink that says "Begin Anywhere," and that is a quote by composer John Cage, and it's something that I resonated with really early on in my career journey, because it's this idea of having any creative spark. Yes, it was applied to kind of more creative industries. John Cage was a composer of music. I'm a writer. But it can be applied to anyone, is this idea of there is no perfect or best place to begin. You've just got to action something, start anywhere, and not just start, but be deliberate about your going. That's what Cage says. Begin anywhere, but be deliberate about your going. So the idea is start something, but stick it out, follow through with it and see where it ends up. And that is a principle that anyone can apply in their business. I think in the world that we live in, it's so crowded and busy, and we can get stuck in this phase of endless research because there's so many ways to do things, and that can paralyze us. But true success happens when you just do something. You've got to take action and follow it through and see what happens, and you may be surprised at where you end up if you do something.
I love that. And I've always loved that sign, begin anywhere. It does ring in my head a lot, being an ongoing recovering perfectionist forever. Just start, Brendan. Just start. Write something, do something, make it happen. It's another piece of feedback. There you go. Your feedback keeps coming back to me as well. The second bit of advice question, I suppose, is that I'm very much on this sort of journey, and what I've in my own journey of 10 years is that those that I help the most are those that are trying to create impact in the world. And again, that person, that owner defines impact, and I just define it as a high impact leader. What do you think in your journey? What advice would you like to leave people that helps them lead with impact?
Two things. I think you've just got to be really honest with yourself about what you're trying to achieve, and don't get distracted by other people's ideas or plans for you or measures of success. So that's really important. Just coming back to your authentic self, what you're trying to achieve, who you are, what you set out to do. Stick true to that. And the second thing is, don't be scared to have hard conversations. Don't, put them to the side. Something that I continue to, struggle with is trying to be a people pleaser, because I want people to be happy. I want people to have a great experience with me, with the team, in all areas of my life. But the downsides of being an endless people pleaser is that you struggle to voice what you want. You tend to take a back seat because you're so busy trying to help and please others. And it's really important. Again, it kind of links to the first thing, is just be true to who you are, what you want, and don't be scared to have those hard conversations. Give that feedback. Tell people how you feel. Tell people what you want to achieve. And ultimately, it's made my shoulders go down, I reckon, about 2 inches. It's just voicing what I want, voicing how I feel in a positive way. Obviously don't vent to people and don't be rude and mean and so forth. There's ways that you can do it appropriately. So there's my 2 things.
Very solid advice. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Laura. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. Hopefully it's not, from a business sense, hopefully it's another 10 years' time, but I'm sure we'll see each other before then. But thanks for coming on and having a repeat on cultural leadership.
A pleasure. Thanks so much, Brendan. Really appreciate your time today.
Always a pleasure. These are my 3 key takeaways from my conversation with Laura. My first key takeaway: high impact leaders focus on people before process. They know lasting growth comes from the right people in the right roles. Finding your people, keeping them close, and matching energy and values creates trust and consistency. That foundation is what drives performance and long-term business growth. My second key takeaway: high impact leaders reject hustle culture. A relentless 24/7 grind doesn't build a sustainable business. The smartest leaders design rhythms that energize their people, knowing balance fuels creativity, resilience, and stronger results for clients and the business. My third key takeaway: high impact leaders turn setbacks into growth. When challenges hit, whether it's losing key team members, financial pressures, or external shocks, they don't fold. They rebuild, refine, and emerge stronger. True leadership is proven not when things go right, but in how you respond when they go wrong. So in summary, my 3 key takeaways were: high impact leaders focus on people before process. High impact leaders reject hustle culture. And high impact leaders turn setbacks into growth. You can let me know your key takeaways on YouTube or at theculturalleadership.com. Thanks for joining me, and remember, the best outcome is on the other side of a genuine conversation.